just the other week, I attended a roundtable in Amsterdam, which was graciously convened by ABN AMRO Bank and a number of their colleagues, the Impact Institute there, and former Caux Round Table colleagues like Carl Nordzai, who used to be on our board. He's a global advisory advisor now. Former Prime Minister Jan-Peter Balkenende and some others. The topic was twofold, a little bit complicated, but I think very significant. The complexity is the intersection of the impact of companies, not just financial, on their profit and loss statements or their financial balance sheet, and the concept of valuation. What is a company worth? One way, its worthiness, its worth, depends on its outcomes. It's what it produces, both narrowly and then the externalities, positive externalities plus negative externalities. And ABN AMRO Bank, guided by a study of the Impact Institute, has devised for 2018 the first ever annual impact statement for a company, where they try to put some numbers, dollar numbers or size numbers on material impacts of the company. So for example, loosely, the total amount of salaries they pay, let's say $100 million, with a multiplier, because that money goes to families which then spend it on housing, food, car rental, vacation. So the total amount of impact on the economy is more as that money rolls over. So maybe their total impact on the economy, usually the multiplier on this is like 3, could be like 100 million plus 300 million, like $400 million this company generated. At the same time, it probably contributed to global warming to some extent. Leaky buildings are one thing and another, or the air miles traveled. And so there could be, in some sense, a deduct for, in some way, on its negative externality to creating greenhouse gases. On the valuation side, what comes together is the methodology for determining a dollar value for a company. And we might think of this usually in the two cases, one of a merger or an acquisition. I think IBM has just announced it's going to buy another software company, open source software, for X billion dollars. Well, why is that company worth X billion dollars and not Y billion dollars? Or when a company sells its stock to the public, or when it just does a private placement, it goes to you and says, get on early and pay me $4 a share for my company. And I have 1,000 shares outstanding, so that's, $44,000 the value of the company. Well, why 4? Why not 40? Why not 400? And if you follow the IPOs of these high-tech companies, what's the share of Apple worth these days? What's the share of Facebook worth? So how do we think about the value of a company? Well, one way of thinking about it is how certain and steady will its future returns be? You gotta go out into the future to make some guesses as to what the company is going to do then, and then you say, how much would I pay today for a company which is going to make all that money in the future? An important point to note is that neither your P&L statement, your profit and loss statement, nor your balance sheet really gives you a judgment on this, because they reflect past activity. Your concern is future activity. So profit and loss statement, this quarter you made a lot of money. There's no guarantee that next quarter will be the same. Odds are it'll be similar, just the way trend lines go, but there's no guarantee. So we brought people together, thanks to ABN AMRO and others in the Netherlands, to think about a new phase in figuring out the worth of companies in a scheme of moral capitalism.